Morning to everyone. I'm pleased to introduce you these two papers that perform this first block about music and literature. And their authors, the speakers. In the first place, I will introduce the paper on the mountain by Joan Grimalt, into the heart of cultural territory, sound, music, and enigma by Dr. Felicissimo. Conductor, postdoc researcher in musicology from the University of São Paulo in Brazil, and was a visiting researcher in the Faculty of Arts at the University of Hèlsinki. His study establishes a range of music signifiers from the acoustic environment of the different folklore of the region known as Secret Mountain, Barcelona, the original language, which is located in the Minas Gerais state in Brazil. According to the plot that became the message from the mountain by Joan Grimalt. So now I give the floor to Dr. Eero Tarasti. We have about 20-30 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much, Esther. Buenos días a todos, un placer estar acá en Catalunya, España, Barcelona. This presentation is about a research developed during more than 20 years, now 15 years ago. And it was a research based on soundscape from this region, Música, where Joan Grimalt, one of the greatest novelists of the 20th century in Brazil, and people who has access to have people that have the key to access these writings. They may also find that he's one of the greatest in the 20th century. Joan Grimalt's father was a diplomat in Hamburg, Germany, and he was also a doctor, a medical doctor, and all his work is based on his origins in Minas Gerais, in his hometown, Cordisburgo, and and the whole region around. I should remember you that Minas Gerais is the state that is in the center part of Brazil and is the size as Germany. It's bigger than Germany. So scale in Brazil is an issue if you want to know our country. We have a huge territory and several different places and regions with certain cultures that are very precise for that kind of environment and people. So during my master's, I had the opportunity to visit this region and also study and be part of a group of scholars and artists that would go to this region and develop also different research projects. And also we had access to the main library of this author. So the Institute of Brazilian Studies at the University of São Paulo, they maintain the several libraries of great scholars and thinkers of our country. And so Joan Grimalt's libraries, thoughts, writings, manuscripts are all there. So during this period, we could have several studies, classes about the Enigma Brazil and readings. And so it was a great diving into this great novelist of the 20th century. And also we could go to his region and understand what kind of source he was exploring in his novels and in his thoughts. So, and in my research, I was studying the soundscape. So the particular soundscape of that region, and also the relation with the people from that region and their understanding of or their memories related to sound in their origin places, and also in the big city of São Paulo, a huge metropole with 17 million people living there. So you have the rural area with a very particular soundscape, historical soundscape, with all these elements, symbolisms from this region, and some families that were from that region, and they choose to migrate to the big metropole, to the big city of São Paulo. So the study, my study, was to understand, and by interviews and also by participating in several events of their particular culture, what kind of sounds were particular from the region, and how they could understand life and meaning from Morro da Garça, this region, and the metropole of São Paulo, and how they identify the symbolisms of the big city and the rural area of their own. So, and in going deeper, you have this great scholar, this diplomat, one of the greatest writers from Brazil, that dived into his own culture and explored that, the tales, the information that that are part of his own culture. So I think for the beginning, I will just show the video. Can you put the video so you can have a glimpse of this soundscape, the symbolism of this place, and also what kind of source you can have when you're going to research or explore those regions. So we can start. Can you
Lamento de carreiro. Carro de boi que canta e todo mundo se levanta para ver ele passar. Na verdade, ele não canta, tem preso na garganta uma vontade de gritar. De gritar, cadê o sertão? Cadê até mesmo o chão? Para que eu possa marcar. O chão hoje é asfalto, já não vejo lá no alto a poeira levantar. Sou feito de madeira de lei, muitas delas eu não sei nem mesmo o nome falar. Umas porque são caras, outras estão tão raras, está difícil de encontrar. Sucupira, folha de bolo, amargoso, jacarandá, peroba, pau-d'água, pau-ferro, jacarandá, bálsamo, pau-d'óleo, aroeira e tingui, pau-terra, mangue, faveira e alguns outros que esqueci. O pior de tudo, seu moço, é que um carro cantando grosso está difícil de escutar. E quando o carro esbandalha, qualquer coisa atrapalha, não está tendo quem consertar. Os nossos meninos já seguem outro destino, querem saber só de estudar. Querem saber de computador e outras coisas, meu senhor, que eu não sei nem explicar. Enquanto Deus for abençoando e nesse chão eu for andando, eu quero carrear, mas já vejo com desespero, carro velho, companheiro, vamos ter que aposentar. Canta, carro velho, canta, e solta sua garganta com toda a força que você tem, porque eu sei que agora você não canta, mas chora, como estou chorando também. Paulo César Soares, sou filho de Vicente Paulo Soares, carreiro, não cheguei a ser carreiro não, mas estamos aí, né? Vai. Paulo Soares. Terceiro Vaticano.
go to the sound. You can ask me those kinds of. It's not bad recording. Okay, it's the sound of the ox cart, a wood axe, and you have this friction, and with that you have this sound that is very particular from that region, and it's the story of the opening of the roads and the cattle culture, and they provide food and meat to the mines of diamonds that were big in like a big economy process in a region nearby called the Diamantina. And before the South African mines were discovered, so it was a big thing, and this region was developed as a region to provide food, meat to that center of mind. So I'm going now to the plot. I'm going to dive on the tale. Okay. Pecado do Morro is a significant in its treatment of the idea of a language of the sertão itself. In the story, a group of 5 sertanejos, cowboys, is encountering a German naturalist in an expedition through the state of Minas Gerais. Parallel to their own discovery of the sertão, another journey is recounted, following step by step the march of the travelers, that of a message given by the very backlands that is spread unpretentiously, much in the manner of an anecdote by marginal members of the region's society. First heard from a hill by a madman who lives in the caves of the backlands. He recounts the message to his brother, an impoverished traveler, who by his turns tells the message to a child. The child proceeds to tell the message to a travel guide. The travel guide to a prophetic hermit, who takes it to be a sign of the revelation, and livingly repeats the message to a city's congregation. It is then heard by the neurotic man, who finally recounts it to the poet and singer Laudelin. Each time the message is told, its conveyors slightly alter its contents, until the poet ultimately gives it the form a mythical ballad, which he sings at a party attended by the expedition members. Only then it becomes clear that the message all along was a warning to their leader, Pedro Orozio. Pedro, a handsome and virile man, is altogether hated for the relations he maintains with the wives of other sertanejos. The man who he has fooled intended to have their revenge by letting him drunk and subsequently murdering him. Upon listening to the ballad, Pedro Orozio understands its hermetic symbolism to refer to himself and his pretentious man, which proves to be correct, and he is capable of saving his life after being warned by the message of the hill. One can see here an illustration by Guimarães Rosa of how himself understood his writing. Rosa intervenes the descriptions of the landscape found by the German man's expedition with the successive versions of the story that the madman, the child, and finally the poet retell. Thus, he describes how a sudden knowledge presented in the nature of captured and mysteriously understood by those naive and lunatic figures, something which is further established in Campo Geral and becomes comprehensible through a poetic treatment while accompanying a scientific discovery of the septum, a discovery that is incapable of revealing the true secrecies it uncovers. That is a resume of the tale, and that mountain that or hill that you saw, it's the hill from the message. It's around his hometown, Cordisburgo. So Guimarães Rosa, when he during his vacation time, he would go back to his origins, and he would make big tracks with cattle and horses, with people from that place, and he would, with like your notes, he would get notes of all the stories. And he was very quiet child, and his father had a market, small market, in front of a train station in Cordisburgo. So the tales that he heard, or the tales that he explores, are becomes like a filter from the own tales from their people, his people. So from the childhood till his adult life, he would always have this understanding of the folk tales from his origins, and he would explore that, even coming back from Germany, going there and crossing regions and reviewing certain folk tales. And if you go to this region, like I showed in this small video, you can have access to their own understanding of life and the oral communication that they have so strong. So with that, you will start to understand where Guimarães Rosa searched for his sources to develop his novels. Okay. So what is even beneath that? We're going to dive a little bit more. In terms of my research on the peasant people, their folklore music, and the acoustic soundscape environment of this region known as the Egret Mountain, Morro da Garça, located in the center of Minas Gerais state in Brazil. The study established a range of music signifiers from the peasant folklore of this region, in addition to the story developed by the author. The imagery, storytelling, and the real life of the peasant people that lives by the Egret Mountain. What about Guimarães Rosa's literature and the reality of the daily life there? What could be said of that? As for the sound interpretations of Villa-Lobos Bachiana's No. 2, Little Train of Caipira, or Beethoven's 6th Symphony Pastoral? What about electroacoustic and soundscape music compositions? How should we interpret the literary landscape presented by this writer? The imagery tale from the message from the mountain, Recado do Morro, tells a message to the leading role of the story, Pedro Orozio. Pedro is a strong man who takes a group of travelers to enter in the hinterlands of Minas Gerais. On this trip, the entourage is approached by 7 rather strange characters who are messengers of a message of an ambush that is about to happen. This study aims to present the relationship between the region and the imagery, its folklore, music, and soundscape. Introduction theme presented as a thematic pluralism evidenced between its lines of a Platonic theory, a portrait of a journey, which passes in 7 instances, originating the dialogue of a universal plot of alchemical journey, at the same time, genuinely from the countryside of Brazil, a Brazil without law. According to Guimarães Rosa, the historical and social experience of Brazil is a karma. Alchemy is about the drug Brazil that destroys us or creates an unprecedented possibility. The theme of the planetary symbols merges with country names, awakening the astrological intentionality that Guimarães Rosa presents as a network of relationships between the unique countryman and the universality of the planets. In the center is the Earth at rest because of Plotinus' first epigraph says, as well as in Corpus de Bali, another the main from 1956 is the main published stories. In a circle, the center is a naturally immobile, but if the circumference were also immobile, it would be only an immense center. According to Timaeus, around the Earth, forming a circumference, the planets Straglas move the Sun, the Moon, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury. Therefore, this introduction is necessary in order to enter the study of the place and the imagery of the hinterland. The music signifies analysis of the acoustic environment that is portrayed, the study of the characteristic sounds that make up the place that Guimarães Rosa described in the form of a tale. The city of Morro da Garça, Egret Mountain, and its surroundings. All the material gathered in this research, which encloses text, photographic essays, and soundscape recordings, can be applied as a didactic base in education courses with the aim of broadening the discussion about cultural characteristics of this community and their cultural heritage. So we're diving a little bit more on this study. Okay. Let's we can leave. So we can have the sound, but a little bit so I can talk.
Okay.
So this is the sunrise in Morro da Garça, and it's a very particular fauna and flora environment, and it's known as Cerrado, Caatinga. It's a kind of, it's our savanna, and it's a place where we have a certain territory with this very particular fauna and flora, and in the center of Brazil. So Guimarães Rosa, he worked there. I should give you an. I think my part here is to bring this great author and also this amazing place and tell about some projects that were developed there, and also give a hint about his books. So Grande Sertão Veredas is his main work. It's known in English as The Devil to Pay in the Blacklands. We have also Spanish translation. it's not easy because it has the sudden, it's a particular kind of communication that only going in this region you can understand what kind of speech they have there. It's very particular. Luis, I know him sure because he also is from Brazil and he has knowledge on that region as well. So, Porco de Baile, Corpus de Baile, it was published in 1956, and it was divided in two parts. Knights of the Sertão, Manuelzão and Miguelinho, 2 characters, and in the Urubuquaqua in the Pinheiros. So all these names are very tough to understand, and even if you know Portuguese, it's not easy to dive into his literature because it's something very particular, like I said. So, but you guys are having access to this environment and what kind of sound and what kind of people and my experience I can share with you. That's what I'm here for. So let me move on. If it's in Portuguese, it's like, but I read most of the part in English, so you have access. I will move forward. But it's Portuguese. Portuguese, it's our main language. It's our language, and it's all there. To have access to his novels, you have to dive in Portuguese and this is the Cerrado. This is, I'm just going to talk about this guy. He's a lawyer and he's giving a speech about Joan Grimalt Rosa and the work that he and other professors have developed with the kids and as an eco-literary environment. That's also, I think, my part here is to bring some projects, ideas that are in development in Brazil, besides the political issues that we have, but we have good ideas and strong projects that emerge our cultural background. So besides politics, this is what I'm going to tell you guys about this project. Can give you a hint of possibilities that you can explore in your own countries and with your own nation. So José Maria Gonçalves, he knows Joan Grimalt Rosa literature by heart. So in this project that gets around 13 municipal areas, districts, and you can have an imagine the country and the state, so it's a huge area. A group of scholars and also a school based on the Museum Guimarães Rosa, they develop study on his works. And the kids also know by heart this literature. And so this region is developing a sort of expedition, a eco-literary expedition that takes you, a group of people, hiking on this region through the mountains, and during this hiking, the kids, miguelinhos, the tale tellers, kids, and also very strong scholars, they have all this by heart. So they will share with you certain parts of the tales of Guimarães Rosa in local. So it's an amazing experience that you can feel the wind see the sight and at the same time experience the tales that also tells that comes from this tradition, oral tradition, and that were built by this amazing novelist, Joan Grimalt. So it's a project that could explore national monuments or national parks, also with literary and eco-tourism possibilities. And it's amazing. His speech, unfortunately, I don't have the time, and most of you don't know Portuguese, but he's telling about all the transformation of this region and how he understands the sound of this region and the sound of the metropole area of São Paulo or big cities, how he confronts the rural and the big cities. And at the same time, he brings the thoughts of these great novelists, Guimarães into his speech, because he knows his works by heart. So it's an amazing statement, and it was published in the Advanced Studies Institute at University of São Paulo. It was called the Dossier Guimarães. So during this period of the 50th anniversary of Porto de Baile and the devil took place in the Blacklands, Grande Sertão Veredas, we had for, I don't know, 7 years encounter of scholars and artists who would gather to develop new ideas and proposals to Joan Grimalt works, and at the same time his regions. So I was part of this group. I had the pleasure to be part of this group, and it was a great dive in our own culture and to know our differences and critical thoughts about Brazil and our origins and traditions. Once again, this is the train station in Cordisburgo, and we have Carlos Drummond de Andrade. Carlos Drummond de Andrade is another great poet from Minas Gerais, but he lived in Rio de Janeiro. And this is 3 days after Joan Grimalt was death. So he died. Could you say that he died in
27th of June in 1908.
1957. Okay. He was
Yes.
born.
1967.
He was born June
27th of June.
Rio de Janeiro and 1957. So this is 3 days after his death. So Carlos Drummond de Andrade made like a verse. He was a poet. He wrote about this great scholar and writer from Brazil. So that was those are our great iconic figures of the 20th century, and we are happy to have them as our guidance through this difficult path that is to live in Brazil, to have the good and at the same time the evil right in front of us. We have to deal with that all day. So this is his speech over Joan Grimalt's house. Yes.
3-5 minutes.
Okay. So this sound is called the ox card axle, and you have this sound. It's a very particular sound from this region, and all the region started being built by this ox cart. So it tells about lots about this environment. And that's, you have once again this mountain, and that Joan Grimalt Rosa based all his plot, and you can see he used the Plotino's idea of the earth, so the farms and the characters, they have relation with Mars, Jupiter, and moon, sun, so he's all in that. If you dive into this, you are having some access with a key. You have key access to dive deeper and deeper into this tale, and also the devil to pay in the Blacklands. That's a very special novel for his work. So he was also into geography. He had access to the journals of geography, and we did a research on that and an expedition on this region. And yes, these are some material that were based on the projects with these scholars and artists from Brazil during this period. We have also the folk songs and this syncretism between Catholic tradition and Afro-descendants Brazilian tradition. So we have this mix in festivals, and it's very peculiar and special. And there are several genres that are built from that. So it's our traditions and roots. In my research, I have several recordings of also sayings and poems about. I didn't have the note. I'm not Joan Grimalt house, but technology brings you the idea of soundscape, and you can record. So in my expedition with colleagues, I also dived in this environment and could research some specialities of our traditions. This is very particular tradition. To fight the fire, we have this ending of the rock. And then we have Lamento de Carreiro. So this is the fair fest. It's a festival, and we have the queen of the fest, the Harvard Fest, and with the ox cart, and so it's there in this region. It's very particular. This is the view from at the top of the Morro da Garça. What I could, as a synthesis, what I could tell you about this research about soundscape is that we infer the non-historical relation between time and space. So the rural area with technology based on the 1912 machines, brings a kind of time in their life experience and culture. In the big centers, you have the certain technology in a different area, and with that you have different times and approach, and so it's the non-simultaneous historical time reference. So if you go to that place, you feel the time differently than when you go to big cities. We have a process of homogenizing places, countries, systems. So it's all about that. That's the machine from 1912 that brings a certain sound to this rural area, different from the big centers. And this is Soundscape Workshops that I developed with the students there. So we also could search the soundscape in their own town. So they would build their ears to the soundscape, reflect on what kind of sounds they could understand. Oh, the bell is also very important and historical for that region. We recorded the laborers working. We recorded that the sound of the milk association, family association, the machines, and the handmade works, what kind of sound they would build. It's a very special kind of life because you have nature right beside you, and you don't have too many people around, so you can relate with the environment very differently from big cities. So this project research I'm ending, we developed exhibitions called the Quiet Kids, something like that, because Joan Grimalt was a quiet kid. So it was in his homage. And what kind of, this was also a friend, a visual artist. She was searching what kind of plays do these kids bring from the environment. So they would be very creative in finding and creating, cars from, wood, lost wood somewhere, and they are very creative in playing and being truth with their own environment. So this is the Casa do Sertão, Casa de Cultura do Sertão. It's a house that was the idea with architectures to build a house of this region, for this region, with cultural, and like a beginning of a cultural center or such. That was the idea. Once again, this now ending, this is the type of expedition that I told you about. This eco-literary expedition. So you gather with friends and hike the region, and you have access to the kids of this group of people that can tell by heart this great novel of Joan Grimalt. So you dive into the region, into their own culture, with a great scholar that tells about this place, and also tell about us. Ourselves. This is Laudelin at the top of the mountain, ending the day. He will give the message to Pedro Rosa. So we have this, they wrote a song. They composed a song based on the poem that Guimarães Rosa wrote. So it's the end of the poem, up in the hill.
We need to move on.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Rodrigo. So now begin the question time. I think we have time for one max, and then we'll move on.
Sorry, I said I would be very precise, but
This always happens. So there's any question from the audience?
It's not a question. My name is Eero Tarasti. I'm from Ukraine. It's not a question, but a little bit remark to your performance. In Ukraine, we have something similar to your musicians. So we call it Tarasti Música. It's like triple music collective, yes, crew, and it plays something like this music. It's very attractive, very rhythmic, and very adorable, like you showed us. So you remind me some piece of our culture. It's very. It's too far from Ukraine, yes, but it's so similar. So I think it's something like ancient intertextuality in music, something like people needed something like this to encourage themselves, and so this rhythms was migrated all over the world, and so we have something in common, but our cultures never crossed yet. So it's really funny and very interesting.
And in Australia, the folk dances are some intonations the same. For me, was more interesting. I think maybe there's proto-Indo-European motifs, which the same in all cultures. I see you listening them, yeah?
Yes, yes.
And so, yeah.
It's also remarked from Poland. We have the same archetype. And maybe not question, I'm sorry, but I participated in another session, but I'm very happy that I would experience a piece of your presentation. But I'm fascinated because of your title, the message from the mountain, from the nature. My crucial topic.
It's not my title because it's a tale and
Yes,
Joan
yes, I know,
Grimalt.
but
Yeah,
this is a metaphor, of course.
Yes, from Joan Grimalt.
My topic was connected with Karol Szymanowski, the great Polish composer, and I observed the same metaphysics of the mountain. So nature is a kind of set of values. So experiencing the music of nature, we also experience human soul, human essence. That it's very important to transform nature sounds into music. So thank you very much, because I felt like one spiritual family with the Lithuanian colleagues, with Ukrainian colleagues, with Brazilian colleagues. So thank you very much. Music unites, so thank you.
Yes. Thank you for your synthesis. Bravo.
Can I add something about the music of mountain? Yes, there is the Serbian writer, Srđan Srbić. He wrote a very interesting book. He was inspired from Sound of Nothing. He was an alumni of it was some event, and he had a grant of it, and the main prize was to live in some time near the deep hole with mountains around it. No people, no connection with other world, only you, somebody who you never see, bring to you all you need, and you are alone, have enough time to write something. And he wrote interesting novel about sound of nothing, but it's about modern world where too much noise, too much vivid actions, and so on. And this sound which kill nature, yes, not a defect of presentation, but sound of instrument which cut the wood, as I understood, yes. It's really very heartbreaking. It's really big drama. It's destroying of ancient culture when people were so close to nature, to cosmic music, to all of this parts of string theory, and I think it's very interesting and perspective theme. I hope you will be successful in this. I wish
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you very, very much. Now we'll move on to Professor Fujian.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I want, my topic is very, a lot of quotes and a lot of material very, and I'll try to find key. And now my English so I show for you some read, some tell, some show, and for time a little bullet see, and so what is about this performances. So mixes a little with my talking and showing. No, a Lithuanian folk tale, Lithuanian folk tale, Eglė Žalčių karalienė, Eglė the Queen of Serpents in literature and on stage, archetypes, passions, and musicality. And I will show what I say, you can read, that's why some quickly and a little clear. Eglė, the Queen of Serpents, is one of the most idiosyncratic and authentic Lithuanian mythical folktale within Indo-European context. It is a subject of many folklore research attempts, literary interpretations, adaptations for stage performances. Current presentations will look at the poem created along the plot lines of the folk story by a Lithuanian poet Salomėja Nėris and a ballet adaptation by a Lithuanian composer Eduardas Balsys. Salomėja Nėris is an eminent Lithuanian poet whose work are known for their special musical sonority and poetical sensitivity. A ballet performance, Eglė, the Queen of Serpents, 1916 by Eduardas Balsys, is a talented Lithuanian composer, opened a new page in the history of Lithuanian ballet. The presentation will review the theme as a principles of passion and development. The presentation will look into the specific of revelation of a typical world outlook, then analysis of principles of composition and spacing. No, and you saw the scientists. There are a lot of scientists, very thorough, and so. Eglė, the Queen of Serpents, is one of the most, as I say, idiosyncratic and authentic Lithuanian mythical folk tale. This folk tale was first published in UC by Jasewicz and later by Polish writer Josef Ignacy Kraszewski. And there are, of course, even 100 different variants of this tale. And this tale had drawn significant attention of artisans from many fields, painters, writers, musicians. There is Antin sculpture in Palanga, where near the sea. There are films, we need to note see. The story of folk tale you can see. I took this paper. You give for all. Yes, yeah. You can see there. It will be a little quicker as I see. A young girl bathing in the Baltic Sea with her two sisters find a grass snake filled wilderness in her clothes. He speaks in human voices and in exchange for clothes asks Agla to promise to marry him, which he carelessly promises. 3 days later, you see serpents came to take her, and the family tried to deceive them 3 times, and Cuckoo warns serpents to deception all 3 times, and later Agla came to Gilvinas in the sea. After celebrating, he had 4 children. And one day Agla decided to visit her relatives on land, but Gilvina strongly opposed it. And in order to visit her relatives, she has to accomplish 3 untable tasks, and you see, and she do this, and later the country is known to only her and her children, with which she could came back at home, but the sons, though beaten, do not try the chant, but Dracula, frightened by the violence, blurted out. And Agla, ready to go back to the sea, cries out of the chant of the sea, but it shows her for foam of blood. Gilvina still who killed him, and the grieving Agla cast a magic spell on her children. For their strength, her sons are turned into a strong oak, a ash, and a birch, and her frightened daughter is turned into an even shaking aspen. The widow herself turns into a spruce. So that is about this folk. Salome is one of most talented Lithuanian poet, wrote from the motifs poem, and you can read what about this poem say our critics. The plot of the poem gained a lot of popularity on stage, and she was staged some variants. 5 very puppet theater staged this poem in very regie and so, and in this time the time very important as this myth and this fairy tale and this Lithuanian archetypes and talking about Lithuanian ancient times as a little dissident feeling too. No, there's this one puppet scene. Now you can read what I say. For this performances often took Music of Čiurlionis, who was very close to listening and revealing and unifying worldview too. Eduardas Balsys Eglė was created in, you see there, and later were 5 Balsys near Vitraž Eglė serpents in his home. He was staged in 5 times, and later a little show for you, some variants, and what is better, what is more difficult, more deeper, and much do for us influence poem or this ballads variants, and so this searching, no, but it is not easy to find this because this mythological basis is very large for understanding, for knowledges and so on. A little, so I run in this topic from brief to understand skis. We can research. No, there's and libretto and rock opera in this fairy tale folk, and now on Friday will be mystery play, and so theoretical methodological basis. You see, I don't clear these systems or music and literature system classifier is very good. That's why in every раздамайте, не все имеют, по-моему, кто не имеет. Very good groups, we can see in very group can be very methodological, theoretical, basis and lot very variants where it's music and literature, and I try some of this use in my searching. That's why I don't explain a lot of time and very bright, very large too. About archetype future, do you know? But the more important are archetypes: anima, animus, shadow, persona, and death, rebirth, energy, and other two archetypes. These are high primordial images that intuitively perceived by human being and that arise on the surface of the subconscious through various visions, symbols, myths, religions, images. And most archetypes could be divided into euphoric enthusiasm and euphoric is there in terms of themic terminology, but some of them would be euphoric indifference. The divide between euphoric and dysphoric passions is one of most striking oppositions known since ancient Greek. As you know, Eros and Thanatos, two gods, by introducing a themic category of euphoria, dysphoria into abstract or figurative terms, theory or description of systems of axiological values, moral, logical, aesthetic is formed. The thematic universe as an object of cognition is divided into the individual universe as well 6 cognitions and the collective universe, collective cognition. The starting point for the articulation of the individual universe is a category of life, death, and the collective natural culture. No, this is to mythical archetypes have different forms of expression in art. The mythical musical expression of archetypes in music is discussed in the dial by Tarasti, and the musical themes are described as intonation, melody, rhythm, timbre, harmony. Some mythical themes as magical, legendary, fantastic, mystical, exotic is not clear. It depends on the content. They would balance between the euphoric and dysphoric dimensions depending on the specific content. In discussing the musicality of poetical themes, which forms thematic nuclei, that is thematic motifs, in addition to semantics, important factors are written intonational dynamic, predicated timbre, tones, phonics, metrics, as well as the structure of a sentence line, and so on. As states Wolf, the description of the theme in poetry is a complicated task, each time requiring the individual access. The theme is a composite microstructure in poetry, or literature, which can be expressed by intonational syntaxes, phonics, semantics, and emotional tonal bases. No, and some words about mythological motifs in the tale. that is, of course, some old proto with Indo-European mythology is have connection, and Lithuanian of researchers of folklore discovered many culture and mythological symbols and connection in this style. No, Beresnevičius considers this fairy tale to be a Lycian myth or theogony, and you can see some about very good our folklore specialist Vėlius. He some symbols and clear what is Žilvinas, what is with green, what is prose, that they this opposition of gods, pagan gods, and the symbolic in folk with animals and with heaven and tonic, and so no. There you can see, and in Christianity, of course, all old gods, pagan gods, were the Satan, and so transformed to fight with this pagan archetypes feeling. No, we have with antique, with tragedy, some little feeling, and so. No, not. I try very show. That's why we have no time enough. No, about etnocultural elements in Neri's poem. Folklore researchers Kadžytė, analyzing the connection between Neri's poem and etnocultural tradition, point out that this tale has become so popular partly due to the folk of Salome Nėris. The plot of the tale, written from the oral versions of folk narrations, was already turning into a household story told in a more prosaic or domestic language. And the poet returned it to the vast and visual space of the magical tale, adorning it with mythological motifs, waving with customs, even elements of customary law, old customary law, common law, interpretations of folklore generally. No, yeah, I read a Lithuanian, you can a little this translate. Jau saulelė miršta, šokim iš vandens, laumingų pirštai, toj bangas kedens. The older system protect the younger young. This is all under custom law. No, the other, you see that custom law etiquette. Please read that serpents turn to us, called the sister when coming to take eglę. O tai didžiausia šliaužia pro duris, mandagiai paklausęs, gal neišvarys, jis marčios atvykęs, jūra ten gili, laukia ten jaunikis gintaro pily. No, Nėris consistently established the symbolism of numbers in the poem. 3 daughters, from whom the third, the youngest, is chosen. Matchmaker serpent arrive after 3 days for the 3rd time. You see 9 brothers instead of 12 as in fairy tales. And for Aglen with the children are in touch table for 3 days. And it has a connection with mythical world. For example, the cook or the bed of truth is singing about the truth on serpent deception. And so the all is the magical John's Eve. Švento Jono naktį klausimas žvaigždės, ims laužus degti raganos pradės. In folklore tale, Egle and her children have lost the opportunity to return to the mythical world, and at the same time cannot the Žilvinas killers be with Žilvinas killers, are turned to the trees by gods. You see the gods turned it in the spruce tree and so and so. And in the key singing inserts of the folk tale, Egle turns herself children into the trees. Kad tu pavirstum dievulėlę, kad drebėtum dieną naktelę, kad užpraustų lietus burnelę, kad iššukuotų vėjas galvelę. Stokit sūneliais stipriais medeliais, aš su mamelė liksiu eglelę. But this is not soft intonation. In Neris poem, expression of passion is much stronger. It is a matter of curse. Keikia prakeiksmų ją, motinėlė tikra, būk prakeikta, dėja išdavika tikra. Virski drebulio, tu visais lapais drebėk, paukščiais joks nenutūp, prie tavęs nečiulbės. Tie šukuos, tegu raus vėtra plaukus piktai, tegu lietus išpraus, to veidelį baltai. Dabar musical futures. No, that is, I try quickly show. Analyzing the musical depth of expression of this poem, first of all, not only the mystical images, but also abundance of quotation of the folklore images that occur in listened folks stand out. And you can see there are a lot of diminutive forms typical of folklore songs, and images are typical of many folk songs generally. You can see that this labor images, wedding, orphanage lyrics, calendar ceremonies, songs for children lyrics, ballads. All these words are in Salomėos Nėries poem. And all the aforementioned genres of folk songs are associated with the most archaic form of folklore, the mythical worldview, and the genre of ballad balances between the relic and old faith in the newer semantics. The poem also contains a wide variety of vocabulary expressing sound waves, repeating thousands a lot. In mythical perspective, the text would acquire mystic, fantasy, heroic, mythic, etc. stems with phoric fashions. The subtle and rich treasure of language expressions, perception of nature, this is in archaic future dating back to the times of either proto-language period, as well as the citation of folklore image reinforces the thinking prosody of the poem, and at the same time connection with singing prosody, archaic characters to the mythical depths of the worldview. From the point of view of musical thematization, that is musical images, you can see a lot of about song, how the semantic of the song is in the poem are very usually euphoric in nature. That is folk image song, a lot about talking about song in this poem. See? And the cultural image of the bell for the archaic community is a prophecy of adversity. You can see it too. Overpais kendoliai dindi, dan. Aižokų gyrė juokas, krūvna širbus skambina, puokas pragaro vartus. That is all this tonic. The circle dance of three fishermen's daughters are introduction of the work. Three seamen's daughters in circle dance, and seems to be mirrored with the opposite emotional act in the center of the work, and becomes a fatal orgastic combo performed by mythical forest creatures. You can see too. Forest witches and spirits in the wood dance in circles. And these elements of the wheel, of the circle, rotation, reeling, turning, return, are constantly repeated in all the text. Poetics, no, you see strophic poems, principal ABA, international colloquial texture is achieved with syntactical parallelisms, repetition, variation, diminutives, phonics, simple rhymes, schemes typical for folk poetry. This is a few and above mentioned folklore musical aspects make the poem sound not only in terms of melody and language, speech melody, but also in semantic close to the song, lyrical, mythological ballad. Will classify such characteristics as evocation. I English more read, not talk of. No passion as basis of the structural form. Analogous to the musical work form is literature can be identified both through the universal principles And you see, and the basis of which archetypal models are formed, and modern compositional techniques. That is a basis, and Karbusitsky, and you know, that's all we knew who more work with music and literature. No, and literary semiotics often analyze the stages of the transformation of love into hate. This is euphoric, dysphoric passion variants. It's Grain, Bertrand, and so. No, that is as introductory part, and later this main motifs go in all poem. This opposition over life, eros, life, love and death, always this transformation. No, and Agnes Prostri and her song starring Prostris as sea horror brings all back to the mythical primordial origin of the world. An oak tree often embodies the tree of the universe, of the beginning of the world. According to Dotita, the forest is the religion of the North, not in Brazil. And in the Baltic world, it is sacred. It is another miracle that is survived in the Baltic culture, a particularly high sensitivity to the tree, which opens the archetypal depths of the tale even deeper. The work also maintains a high value scale, breaking the word betrayal. It is not forgiven. The Baltic worldview. This is our feeling, romantic feeling, maybe for all people. This folk tale and this poem do has a science and make for us deep influence too in this aspect. Now about composition, you read a little. That I want to show you some ballets. No, there is the finished this poem. And not not oft tragic finish in Lithuanian. So this transformation in trees. Multifaceted musicality of the text, of the form, dramatization, partial reproduction, vocation, tonal, syntactic, melody, basics of composition, contrasts of euphoric, dysphoric passions, mythical numerology, elements of rondality, general profile of dynamic development, helps to create the sound of the archetypal sacredness of a fairy tale. Much more we understand this musicality of poem help us understand this this sacredness of this tale. No, what's a folklorist about this poem? About Balsis. That is for you will be more interesting because we can show a little. Here he slightly altered from the plot of a folklore tale or a poem Sneris. It is adapted for more common canons of the stage. For example, the piece begins with a serpent Rishilvin's dance. Aglia sister leave her alone with that serpent. The customary law is traceable here, and you see, read a little what is, understand what is another variant for ballet, for choreography, more, and the interpretation of their relationships is closer to the French concept of passion, more sensitization, emotion, moralization. This is, and to some extent, this emphasis of passion diminishes the dimension of sacredness. The ballet is more reminiscent of a beautiful fairy tale. On the other hand, it speaks of Gaia eternal values. But I'm not sure if dance anthropologists would find any elements of sacral dance in this faith stages. No music, you can see folk motifs and folk songs a little. And mysticism through the melody of folk song simply transfers to the dimension of the level of the somewhat Europeanized folk tale. But this Sutartina's polyphonics more no, in this time were not a lot of mythological researchers, no Greimas, no Gimbutienė, and when created in 1916, that was very new and Lithuanian and archetypes and so, but now we understanding this much more deeper. I can see the first national consumer. Can you help me a little? Yeah. About the first variant, please. I want to see. The first variant of how to know old costumes. This is film ballet in 95 of 65. No, so costumes, old, typisch, realistisch. That is prologue music. Where, yes, that is. Later. No, neither Grivickas, this one, neither later Bukaitis, Balsys, not satisfied Balsys. There you can see the third was choreographed Egidius Domeika. Now, please. Okay. Notice. Oh yes. No, more fantastic here, poem and as fairy tale. I a little show something. And music. This is Lithuanian folk instrument. No, bye. Oh boy, it's as Lithuanian. No, some. They came to take Agla. Group dances, when she's at palace, as in choreography canon, like choreography canon. Das ist Leitmotiv von Nagler. Romantic love, yeah. I cannot time enough to show you what I want. They want to come to home. The brothers will kill the serpent. Good song. Yes. Finished. They transform in trees. What to help you? What's your name? What's your name? No, later. Okay. What's your name? Not.
Just 3 more minutes.
3 minutes?
Yes.
No, yes, then I. Yes. Look at something interpretations here about this. I don't read. That is the Williamson only photo. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Some photo, but this. Yes, and no. Please come. Yes. That is interpretation about this. Not good understood and more realistic and for listener not. Yeah, the stylistic repels is completely unacceptable to the poetic listen worldview and subtle for erotism too. No remake is ballet. That is, yeah, good. This is modern dance. Modern dance. With children as when he is alone and storms make and so. And just what? Come here, come, yeah, yes. This was in Mezzo Chapel. No. She was alone, not with the 3 daughters, sisters. He watched that she promises him modern dance. And there were only one brother. That's why in Klaipėda's theater there was not enough dance, solo dance for 3 brothers. They were young talent, but not some classical choreography, some this modern dance. They could take. Not music.
No, it's something.
Yeah, enough. That's enough. Enough. Then I.
Yes, please.
I know you can read some interpretations about this, and I generalization. Here, what I have said. Some sentences. And her poem is not only retained the elements of the folk tale, but further ritualizate it. She reinforces the expression of mythical images and facing customs law, using mythical numerology, reinforcing contrast of folkloric and historic practice. The dimension of mythical sacredness is reinforced by the musicality of the poem, which manifests itself starting from the rich images of folk songs, vocabulary of archaic strophics, phonics, elements of musical thematization, archetypal principles of repetition, all leading to the harmony of the above-mentioned mythological elements, the archaic worldview, the poetic musicality gives the text the so-called density and semiotic termin, and enriches its existential archetypal level. The music of the ballet written by Balsisi characterized by multiple variants in the structure of the text performed by the composer himself, as well as different interpretation of the photo stage. This interpretation different depending on the socio-cultural situations of the staging period, the perception of the national perspective, the emphasis of passion, the intersection of traditional and modern choreography, and the talent of scenographers. The canons of ballet art impose a particular abandonment of mythical numerology, leaving only the main plot elements, introducing statically general dances, and so, no. That's a little my interpretation about what I said about later when Gimbutienės, Vėlius, Greimas, researches about mythology. In Balsys time, there was not so much researches, and that's why this mythological element and choreography to a stage cannot be very good understanding with deepness, with understanding, with so. Point of deep understanding of mythology to compose. No, and therefore, so ballet is deservedly considered open a new era in the national ballet. There is poetry effect as in terms of mythological semantic, passions dynamic, archetypal worldview, and Balsys ballet reading is still waiting for a new talent, genius artists. No, thank you very much.
One person.
Performance. It was really exciting. I'd like to clarify for myself something. Is it some correlation between the original and the textures of images of different persons in verbal speech? I see the names, oak and different trees, snakes. Yes, it's different textures. Is it some correlation between some some qualities.
No, I am not a musicologist, and I am not see in this aspect. It is very interesting question. Maybe I could later search and look that, but that was not my this task this time, to see how componists with musical instruments try to create these images. This what we want. This is only briefly and only from principle how to search key.
Yes, the translate is intersemiotic translate maybe or something else, decoding.
Yeah.
Coding and decoding.
I am
Okay,
that's important for me. That finished. Very important to me.
Maybe we will talk about after your section.
Yeah, that is a lot of problem, a lot of very point of view and searching and researching variants. No, very great material, and to see that is only the most important points I try to find. Why this is so actual now, and so much very artist this fairy tale always bring in very artist material.
Thank you.
Ago, but thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor.
Okay.